Wanted to continue from my previous video that I made a few weeks back based on everything that's been going on with racism and inequality and injustices that are happening predominantly in the US and also Canada and throughout the world. So from my last post, I kind of felt like it needed a part two of it because there's so much that we can say. There's so much as a Black person that we can say towards our experiences and towards not only how we feel, but what our world looks like. And the one thing I want to talk about since the last post and since George Floyd's killing, his murdering, of course, the conversation has been widened, and there's more people that are included in the conversation now that are wanting to be included into the conversation other than the Black community. There's many people outside of the Black community that are willing to listen or wanting to hear, wanting to see, and wanting to understand a little bit more. That being said, which I think is a wonderful thing, so we have something that's much different than 58 years ago, okay? So, but one caution I would have to, that stands out at the forefront for me right now is to be aware that just by a company, a corporation, a big corporation, it could be the NFL, it could be NASCAR, it could be, I don't know, let's say, a media company, or it could be Old Navy, for instance, making a statement saying that they don't condone racism, they don't condone things that are going on, right now. They are inclusive and they want people to know that. That is just a statement. That is not an action. So people saying, wow, that's really remarkable, things are changing, there's so much change happening. No, that's just a statement. That has nothing to do. We now have to watch and see how they follow up on that with action. Because just to say it and to put up a post, whether that's a corporation, whether it's your friend, whether it's a family member, whether it's just anybody, just putting up their little post and putting out a blackout square, especially like Blackout Tuesday, and just making those statements that we're here is just a statement. It isn't an action. It doesn't mean that you are going to want to help out and make sure that your community, your environment is friendly for all. Your environment is equal to all. It doesn't mean that those companies now are going to now change their structuring on how they hire, how they, because there's a lot of things that go on. You don't have to put your knee on someone's neck physically for you to have your knee on their neck. Because if you're a corporation, how they can put their knee on my neck or somebody else, they can make sure that when they see a name that they somehow in their minds think that it sounds Black, they might not even look at that resume. They might then see that your qualifications fit the job, but still give you the job, but not pay you the equal to what they should be paying you from another white counterpart. They might then allow you, let's say, even in the boardroom. You might even have that job, but you're not now allowed to make any solid change. You're not making solid change. They might say when it comes to the time that you're supposed to maybe get a raise and you've done so many things to further yourself to get that raise, they will then say, well, it's not the right time. It's not the right time. We don't have the budget. But then you find out that somebody else in the office who's been there less time, who has not even your qualifications, they've been given a raise over every year for the last 5 years. And the other thing that I find that corporations, in society, period, what they do is they make it seem as if the employee should never kind of speak about how much money you make. Don't speak about that. Don't speak about, because it's not the right thing to do. It's inappropriate. It is the culture here. We don't do that. But that is their way of not letting transparency out. That is their way of not having people see the injustices that go on. that is a hidden way, and they form it, they put it into a nice little, they wrap it nicely as it's not, proper. That is the term. It's not a proper thing to do. Well, it's not proper for whom? It's not proper for them, because it's not in their best interest for you to know that you're getting paid much, much less than, you are working twice as hard. And that is the other thing. So today I kind of wanted to also talk about all the things that a person outside the Black race wouldn't know goes on with a Black person. We were taught from the time we were young, small, from way high I can remember. And again, I'm from Barbados. It doesn't matter where you're from. You could be from Zimbabwe, you can be from Barbados, you can be from Australia, maybe as Indigenous. It doesn't matter. Anybody predominantly outside of a white person, you were taught you better work hard. You better work twice as hard, if not triple, to get somewhere in life. So that way, that if you study real hard, there's beyond a shadow of a doubt, you will get the grade that you're supposed to get. Because if you don't do that, it's a very big chance that you might get bypassed, you might get put back, you might get, they might just not give you, it might not be fair. So from the time we were young, we were taught you had to do that. You were taught that not only did you have to work harder, get a good education, get a good job, possibly, move into a good neighborhood. Let's say you weren't in a good neighborhood. You worked your way up now to get yourself out of maybe, the quote unquote bad neighborhood, or, it could be, I don't want to say ghetto, but it could be like that. I'm thinking like the US now, not necessarily Canada, but, you're taught to do that. Then you're taught, okay, you got a good education now. You've got a good job. You've moved into a good neighborhood, and you dress well, you speak well, because you're educated. It has nothing to do with white or Black. You just have a brain, and your brain is working. And that's the other thing when people make the statements like, "Wow, you're really smart," or "Wow, you're really intelligent," as if a Black person can't be intelligent. What does the color of your skin have to do with your brain? It has nothing to do with your brain. It's very insulting and ignorant for someone to make those kind of stupid ass statements to people. But that still goes on today. That was a little sidetrack. Either way, you've done all these things. And again, I go back to Barack Obama. He, highest level of office in the US, but yet, if he were to drive down the road without Secret Service, and a cop or another person were to run up on him, and they don't really look good to see that that's who he is, they would treat him still as just a Black person. So let's be clear. It doesn't matter. We've realized now, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter where you live, because you could buy a great house in a great neighborhood and drive into your driveway and still have a cop, come because your neighbor thought, well, who are they and why are they living here? And is that their house? Meanwhile, it is your house because you bought it, but somehow you're not supposed to be in that neighborhood. Or you might have a great car, and you might have a good job, and you might say to your son or daughter, go, take my car, because my car, your car is in front of mine. Take my car and go wherever you're going. And that kid gets stopped just because they're driving their parents' car. And because the cop is going to say, well, what are you doing with such a nice car? This is the kind of ridiculous, stupid shit that happens. And it happens in Toronto. It happens all the time. You can be dressed as well. You can be in a suit. They're not going to see you as different. They don't care. They don't even care what you do, because all they see is a Black person that potentially to them is either threatening or possibly might be a thief. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've been living in my neighborhood for 37 years. Shoppers Drug Mart is down the street. I go into Shoppers to buy a magazine because I'm a makeup artist, and I buy Vogue and I buy Bazaar and I buy whatever. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into the store, and I will have somebody circulating me, watching me as if I'm going to steal a magazine, as if I could eat a magazine. Because let's be clear, if I'm going to steal something, the last thing I'm stealing is a magazine. Let's get that straight. But why would I even want to? But this is the kind of asinine stuff that happens. And then another little, situation where I could think about is, I laugh about it every time I go to the grocery store. And I see a privilege as a privilege that you probably wouldn't even think about. That, I go to the grocery store and I see people pick up their stuff and they put them in their own little buggies and carry carts or their little, recyclable bags. They pick up all their stuff, they go up to the cash, take them out of their bags to pay for them. There's no way a Black person could even entertain the thought of going into a grocery store and picking up items and put it into their personal carry bag or personal cart without security coming up to them by the third item, not even by the 20th, by the third item, and say, "Excuse me, ma'am, can you come over here?" Because that's exactly what would happen. So, there's so many experiences, so many things that go on daily that Black people just are so aware of. You just look at it, you laugh, you come home, you're like, whatever. That's just like, it goes over your head now. And it's sad that it has to go over our head. And it's very sad that we have to think like that every single day. But that is exactly what happens. I remember last year, my friend Gilly, and I say her name, hopefully she's okay with that. But anyways, we went, she invited me up to a cottage that she rented, and we had the best time. It was the best time at Lake Huron. Anyways, we went into town, just me and her, because we said, okay, we need to get more eggs. And there were 2 other girls that were behind. But either way, we decided, okay, let's go and we'll get some of the stuff that we're running out of. So we went into town. I already knew we're in, out of the country. We're going to go into this little country store. And I knew from the time I got to the store, once I saw the cars parked and the people going in the store, that it was going to be interesting. Now, I'm not going to say anybody was rude to me. Anybody was weird to me. Well, I shouldn't say they weren't weird. They weren't rude to me. But I could see the faces, people's faces watching me, watching Gilly, who's white, probably thinking to themselves, they're not thinking, oh, these are city people, because they could have been thinking that, like, oh, look at these city people and, we're the country people. They weren't thinking that only. They're probably thinking, oh, here's this Black person with this other woman. What are those 2 doing together? And I was observant, the feeling in me, observant of how they were watching the person at the counter as I was paying for the things I was paying for, and watching me, watching Gilly. And I don't even think Gilly was even paying attention to that, because she wasn't. And then I went back in to go and get a coffee from the Tim Hortons there. And it was just so funny. You would have thought they've never seen a Black person in their life. Like, I'm telling you, you would have thought that they've never seen a Black person in their life, the way that they were watching me standing there waiting for my coffee. Again, they weren't rude to me, but it's the things that you see people do that you were well aware that they either feel uncomfortable because you're there. So, I just say all that to say, it's interesting what is going on. I'm just looking at my notes here because there's a few other things I wanted to talk about as well. I kind of wanted to talk about, hold on. I just wanted to share that. I think I hit on all the points that I kind of wanted to talk about today. But I just want you to be aware that, right now, as much as people are optimistic that things are going to change, and now we're seeing more and more people from companies come out and speak on their experiences in the workplace, their experiences with, family. Let's say maybe they have interracial marriage and their experiences with the family, how they're treated or how they're seen. I think we as a minority Black community aren't really sure that things are really fully going to change. There's optimism, but I can tell you right now, I've seen so much people in the last, again, this happened, for the last 2.5 weeks, and people outside of the Black community are already like, oh, how long are they going to talk about this? Are they going to keep talking about this every day? Do we have to turn on the news and see this every day? But this is what we've been dealing with for 450 years plus. So to sit there and to expect us to shut up and to expect us to not want change is ignorant beyond. Because until you see us as equal, and until you see me as just as valuable as you, and my child, if I had one, as just as valuable as yours, we're not going to stop talking about it. Because there's no equality. So just because somebody has a job at your company, or you have a friend, or because they have a house, and because they have a whatever kind of car, is not enough for you to say, oh, well, what are you complaining about? Because until we are seen as equal across the board, we're not going to not say anything. Because really and truly, us getting whatever we've gotten, we worked so hard for, and that's the other thing. You make sure that the person that you're giving the job to, you're going to make them work extra hard just for that job. And you know you're doing that. And you know that you are